Hello everyone, and welcome to the reading of Digimon Liberator Debug, Chapter 5, Part 1. Similar to the previous readings, I am not a professional voice actor, and I'm just one person doing their best, so if the voices change episode to episode, I'm just doing the best I can. And sometimes, since it's such a big break between these bundle of releases, I also kind of forget the voices that I've given a character. So I'm doing my best. I'll try to keep it as consistent as possible. I recommend still heading to the official release over on Digimon.5-1 if this is your primary way of consuming the Liberator web novel, partially so Bandai still gets the site visits, but also because each chapter, like Digimon Seekers, has art and actual visuals of any new card that's mentioned. While the mechanics themselves are included in the reading, if you want to see the card itself, again, head over to the official novel release over on Digimon.5-1. I've also actually gotten into the Digimon card game, like I'm actually playing it at locals weekly or twice a week, depending on how I feel, so I actually have more context for the things that are happening in Liberator now, so that's pretty cool. So that'll be very exciting, and if you want to hear my thoughts about the TCG, head over to the YouTube channel. If you aren't listening to this over on YouTube, if you are, you're already in the right spot. You're already in the right spot. Wow, this is going to go fantastically considering I can't seem to string any amount of words together this morning. Anyway, so with that out of the way, let's continue on to Digimon Liberator Debug, Chapter 5, Part 1. Debug, Chapter 5, Part 1. The scene is a daytime cityscape, with crossings and traffic lights amid masses of buildings. Overlooking the main street are two creatures, a penguin on the sign for a 24-hour store on the corner, and a black kaiju on the roof of a much larger building in the centre. The endless streams of traffic and crowds you would expect in a place like this are totally absent. That's because this isn't reality. It's a digital space. More specifically, it's one of Digimon Liberator's test servers, where someone has reproduced Shinjuku's main street in painstaking detail. There are 3 visitors. 2 are big, and 1 is little. One of the former is a man with flamboyant sunglasses, his trademark grey hair and white coat fluttering in the urban wind. He is Digimon Liberator's operations manager and development chief. Known only as Cool Boy, it was he who discovered Lacuna and undertook its initial setup. The smallest of the group is a Digimon somewhat resembling a mammal, with rodent-like teeth and rotund little ears, but an oddly shaped cyan body. This is Espimon. Even more unusual is the third member of the trio, who appears humanoid yet somehow alien. He has a sapphire torso and cyan components that emit a dim, cosmic-seeming glow, and green lights that serve as eyes. Every person who meets him agrees he has the aura of a tokusatsu hero. Called Altia, he is an AI created by Yao Chinlan, the ace Digimon Liberator programmer and GM. Although both he and the Shinjuku street are virtual in nature, the sight of him standing there feels undeniably real. Digimon Liberator Side Story, Debug Chapter 5, Part 1, Altia. For Altia, visiting here, a place so much like the outside world, is something of a wish come true. It's been 1 year since he was created, and 8 months since he divulged said wish. It was during the beta test, just after he had completed his basic studies in the garden about the Digimon card game, when Yao asked him whether he had any goals. At this point, the scenery of Lacuna and the garden were all that Altia knew, and so he was straightforwardly stated his desire. Certainly, that's simple enough. The reaction from his mother, Yao, was memorable. Startled, she clasped her fist to her tiny torso and smiled slightly awkwardly. Similarly, his partner Espimon was gobsmacked. Altair did not expect that he had any hope of visiting the outside world. He was being composed of data after all. Bound to the digital world, he realised his request was unreasonable. And yet, it's truly incredible. Agreed, I'd seen Yao sneaking off from work now and then, but I never guessed she was working on something like this. Judging from Cool Boy's body language as he nodded, he was genuinely caught off guard. Who else could have single-handedly made such a precise replica of Shinjuku? Altair knew nothing of the real thing, but the scale of the achievement alone reaffirmed his creator's remarkable talent. As he, once again, took in the unpopulated Tokyo district, he welled up with a mix of pride and loneliness, feeling Yao's absence keenly. If it hadn't been for an urgent task for the debugging team, she would have come as well. I'm honoured to be here. Some parts resemble Lacuna, but it's amazingly chaotic. What with these buildings all sprawled out, I have to say, I really love it. As a Digimon known to covet knowledge, Espimon's enthusiasm was understandable. It was acting like a child in a candy store, breathlessly rushing around and exclaiming in awe. Right, although it's the other way round. Lacuna is based on the real world. Seeing Espimon nodding along to Cool Boy's words, Altair also wanted to express how strongly he felt. What did this strong feeling of surprise remind him of? After thinking it over for a few moments, he recalled one thing in particular and shared it with his audience. I've not felt such shock since I heard about the tangerine that wasn't peeling well after it was beaten to the pulp. Oh, you must be citrusly impressed then. Cool Boy bemusedly tilted his head, glancing sideways at Espimon. Huh? Seems like a pretty low-hanging pun. No way, Mr. Cool Boy. That joke's practically the pick of the bunch. Is that so? Fascinating. By now, Altair had realised that whatever Cool Boy said fascinating with a serious look on his face, it generally meant he didn't really understand. Altair reflexively fell silent. Like him, still sometimes struggling to get the meaning to people, it appears that was true even with someone of Cool Boy's intelligence. Espimon, on the other hand, was joyfully bouncing to and fro, having evidently appreciated Altair's humorous remark. Ah, good stuff. But Master, tell us more. How would you sum up your feelings about all this? All right, let's see. Altair didn't mind that his partner's pleas were somewhat put on. At an apt moment like this, it was only reasonable for Espimon to expect a joke of the highest calibre he could offer. Keen to meet expectations, Altair worked his cognitive circuits at full output. Well, if you're really wondering, wandering around today has been great. Wonderful, in fact. Master, your language cortex is as sharp as ever. Bullseye. Altair clenched his fists with satisfaction. Having got the reaction that he had hoped for, he could feel elevated activity in his emotional circuits. Cool Boy tilted his head once again, but Altair decided not to let that bother him. Right then, we've had our moment of levity. Do you mind if we get down to business? Let's. Of course. The signed Digimon and the silver-haired administrator both nodded. The latter snapped his fingers, bringing up a holographic window. It displayed a single image of Maquinamon. This was the enigmatic half-beast, half-machine, level 3 Digimon that had been repeatedly spawning in Lacuna of late. The debugging team is responsible for conserving them. Even at this very moment, they were frantically travelling across Lacuna to track them down. Maquinamon is still shrouded in mystery. Altair knew two main things about them. Firstly, they are fully adapted to Lacuna's environment. This was discovered through thorough analysis of the first one that was captured. Secondly, they do not appear in any of the Digimon databases installed in him. This made him suspect that it was one of those new type of Digimon native to the world, like Terramon, Shumon, Elizamon, and other debuggers' partners. Still, he wasn't confident, as the evidence was only circumstantial. What's your take on Maquinamon, Altia? My take is that what Coolboy most likely wants to know is whether this Digimon is ill-intentioned. Although his moral values may be different, he seems to want a second opinion on whether it may pose a threat. In all honesty, they don't appear that dangerous, not enough to justify lengthy discussions within a closed network such as this. I agree. Despite their adaptations to Lacuna, they're physically very weak, and, unlike most Digimon, they lack a primal desire to seek competition. There's no way that could last long in a survival of the fittest situation. So, assuming that Maquinamon doesn't have any secret powers able to drastically alter Lacuna, and they won't harm players, what should be done with them after they're taken in? Just what kind of life would be right for this Digimon? The trio must come to a decision. Coolboy is right to say that Maquinamon are weak, possibly due to how their mechanical and biological halves are imperfectly fused. They cannot survive if left alone. So a laissez-faire approach is unacceptable. Even more so given the debugging team's dedicated efforts to track them down. The risk of them perishing needs to be minimized somehow, and it's a sensitive matter. It wouldn't do for there to be eavesdroppers, which is why they've come to this deserted space. If you wouldn't mind me giving my opinion, Mr. Coolboy, I think Unchained could likely find a solution. It's true. Unchained might just be the person for the task. This person, Unchained, a special consultant to the debugging team, is in fact a digital life form, composed purely of data, just like Altia. However, unlike Altia, an AI created by Yao, Unchained is a native of Lacuna, having come into existence independently of any human's design. Unchained's birth was, by their own account, a spontaneous event resulting from the influence of Digimon upon structural data in the Digimon Liberator application. Altia's impression of Unchained was no means negative. They had spoken several times, and he frequently saw them in a jovial conversation with Coolboy. Since their relations were reasonably friendly, the idea of relying on Unchained gave Coolboy and Altia pause for thought. I think personal reservations must be put aside, Coolboy. We lack alternatives, and besides, Unchained is inextricably involved already. I know. Honestly, you have to hand it to our special consultant. You sure do. It was undeniable. Without Unchained, the debugging team would be at loss regarding how to handle Maquinamon. Their special consultant possessed an isolated virtual space, and had lent it to the house the hybrid Digimon. Perhaps the similarities between the two of them, both being born from liberated data, was what motivated Unchained to assist. The help came without any persuasion. This was something that Altia, often occupied with attending to the garden, was most grateful for. In any case, we still need to decide how the Maquinamon should be handled. Indeed, that's the main objective for this discussion, isn't it? The analysis of Maquinamon had been completed, and its weaknesses had been reported on. The issue now, assuming the rest of them are successfully rounded up, is finding a way to circumvent their weaknesses and ensure their survival. Naturally, the three of them had already given it consideration. Espimon was the first to voice its thoughts. Master, in my humble opinion, we ought to go ahead with what we've previously discussed with Coolboy, simply giving them an isolated environment. Yes, maybe. And I suppose what that ties in with the choice of location. This Shinjuku area that Miss Qinglang kindly invited us to is indeed isolated. What are your thoughts, Coolboy? Could be viable, but I don't know about optimal. First, we'll need to go back and research Maquinamon's makeup and behaviour, and then we need to prepare a specialised space. I was thinking virtually the same thing. Your subtle references always hit the spot, Master. Altia couldn't help but make a little quip, but on seeing Coolboy recoil in amusement, he regretted detracting from the conversation's seriousness. The joy of visiting Shinjuku had made him unexpectedly giddy. I'm sorry, Mr. Coolboy. Staying on topic, I ought to mention that I'll be continuing thoroughly analyse the Maquinamon's study sample data. As the administrator of the garden, Altia had access to several private areas. Among there is a research facility sector where the Digimon database is accessible. Here, Altia began his analysis by running Makumon's sample data against the database in order to find similar Digimon. The most vital point to consider is how it manages to have biological and mechanical components simultaneously. I believe you mentioned there is a member of the debugging team with relevant expertise. That's right. In fact, he'll be arriving here any minute. Cool Boy took out his watch and checked the time. So far, the meeting in virtual Shinjuku had consisted of just himself, Altia, and Espimon. But a fourth person was due to arrive. An expert they were counting on. He is a debugger, but more to the point, he's a GM, although less senior than me. Just like Cool Boy and Yao, this person is apparently a member of IDEA, a developer. He was known for successfully stopping a rampaging Digimon during the beta test, resulting in his appointment as a games master. Apparently, that very Digimon now works alongside him as his partner. Altia had spoken with his teammates beforehand to learn more about him, and his interesting personality was frequently brought up. In short, he's said to be something of a geek. Oh, good, he's here. As if on cue, a portal opened behind Altia. A man in a white lab coat stepped out of the bright light and into the virtual Shinjuku. He was of medium build in every dimension, with a hunched back. His black hair was unkempt and shaggy, so chaotic that it almost looked like a perm, with bangs covering his eyes. An ID pass was hung around his neck, printed with the name Chitose Horaji. Hey, thanks for coming. Facing Cool Boy, Horaji lifted his hand awkwardly and nodded in greeting. Hey, good to see you, Altia. I think this is the first time we've spoken. I'm Horaji, one of the Digimon Liberator Development Department. Sorry, I'm Whoa! It really does look like Shinjuku! Mr. Cool Boy, this is seriously impressive, perfect in every detail. He didn't finish his greeting, overcome with amazement as he surveyed the reproduction of Shinjuku that he found himself in. Sure enough, it seemed that even those who knew the real thing found it very impressive. With a slightly reproachful air, Cool Boy interrupted Horaji by awkwardly clearing his throat. I understand your excitement, Horaji, but I didn't call you out here today for sightseeing. Oh, sorry, I couldn't help myself. So, you need to know about composite types, was that it? That's right. Altia is currently researching Maquinamon, and your knowledge might be able to help him. Well, if you're the one asking, you can be sure I'll give it my all. In truth, he came across to Altia as rather haphazard, but Yao had always told him not to be misled by a person's demeanour. He promptly straightened his own posture. A pleasure to meet you, Mr. Horaji. The pleasure is all mine, Altia. Ask me anything you like. I hope I can help. With introductions out of the way, Cool Boy looked again at his pocket watch. He had mentioned an imminent meeting about a new TALE production. I'm afraid I've got something else to attend to. I hope I can leave this matter in Horaji's capable hands. That you can. Horaji's shaggy hair swayed as he bowed to the departing Cool Boy. It was apparent that he held Cool Boy in high esteem. Even though Altia couldn't see his face as he bowed, he could sense there was a sparkle in his eyes. Altia, yes? It's no exaggeration to say he's a specialist in composite Digimon. As you know, when the first level 5 wild Digimon appeared in Lacuna, this was the man who cleaned up the mess. I've heard the story. If I'm not mistaken, that rampaging Digimon was... Altia once again fired up his cognitive circuits and fell silent for a brief moment. But just before he was about to say the name he had remembered, Horaji beat him to the punch. It was Chimeramon, Altia. A Digimon emerged from the D-storage that Horaji was holding, a level 3 with rabbit-like appearance and a sharp gaze. Although, these days, it works alongside me in the form of Gazimon. Horaji's partner stood there, looking at them. To be continued. Okie dokie, so that was it for Debug Chapter 5 Part 1. As of recording this, I still have to do Chapter 5 Part 2, Chapter 6 Part 1, and Chapter 6 Part 2. But I'll hopefully get them out of the way pretty soon so I don't lose any control over any of the voices. Again, not a voice actor, I'm just doing my best. So please do not roast me too hard on my inability to do voices. But in any case, thanks for listening. You can contact me on Stay Updated. You can leave me a comment on this episode on YouTube to join in the conversation, especially if you are already listening to this on YouTube. You're already in the right space. For a full list of ways to find the podcast across the internet, such as YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, and Twitter, head over to my link tree, which is linktr.ee/LostinTranslationmon. If you enjoy the podcast or videos or even my silly little posts online, you can show your support by signing up on Patreon, get some cool rewards, and help me hit some milestones. Oh dear, I'm starting to lose my voice. Maybe I won't do it all of them immediately back to back. Maybe I'll wait a little bit until my voice is returned. I blamed the actual throat clearing that a character did, and I think I overdid it because, ow. Anyway, thank you to my current supporters on Patreon, Stephen Reeves, who's 164 and Archive Our Own, Kadawashi Chisai, who can follow on Twitter at Chisai236, Neobu, who says you should follow Chisai on Twitter at Chisai236, Elizabeth, who's a Lekmon on Tumblr, Nicholas, Magnus, Lucas, Jason105, Patrick, Jason, Shelby, Digital Hazard, who's on Twitch at The Digital Hazard, Dropemon, Vmon Tamer, Kasai, Big Bad, Beetleborg, Bent, Archer, and Cappy. You can also make one-off donation on PayPal, which you found linked in the description. It's paypal.me/airdramon. You can also donate to me on my Ko-fi, which is ko-fi.com/airdra. Again, thank you so much for listening. If you want to hear more of my thoughts about the TCG, check out my videos on the TCG over on I almost said Twitter, over on YouTube. You can also check out Twitter for my very ever so slightly unhinged thoughts about One Piece. And yes, so if you are watching this on YouTube, do the like, comment, subscribe, etc, etc. And of course, I'll see you the next one. Bye!